I wanted to give another stab at these guys. I mean, the Batman I did like, he just had some deco issues, and Alfred was solid enough. Maybe getting one of my favorite Batman villains and my favorite comic book character, period, Dick Grayson, will help sway me over to the side of these figures more. From McFarlane Toys and their new Batman the Animated Series line, this is the Wave 1 Robin and Scarecrow, with the Build-A-Figure being the Condiment King. Now, these figures are in the 6-inch scale, but some are going to be bigger or smaller depending. For instance, Scarecrow looks to be closer to 7 inches tall, Robin appears to be closer to 5 inches tall. I'll be honest, I think I got my hopes too high. So, the Robin is very similar to the Batman in that there's just some really gross looking deco choices. For instance, I try to shade his face, and look, it just looks like a gross grease stain. Same thing with this on his inner arms. Like, that just looks like he is sweating really badly from his armpits. There's some shading I'm okay with, like the shading here on the side. I would prefer not to have it, but that's okay. The shading on the legs I actually really do like, that kind of darker green, like that's nice. It's just a really clumsy attempt at cell shading, and I think it makes the figure look kind of just dirty. And I feel like McFarlane knows that this was a mistake, and the reason I say that is because they've already shown us Wave 2. Wave 2 includes a Batman that doesn't have that gross orange skin shading and has reduced the shading on the costume overall. So, last video I said I really hope they give us another Batman that's going to look better. They are. Now I guess I'm going to say I hope they give us another Robin that looks better. I really hate this because the deco is really hurting a figure that's actually pretty decent. I mean, you look at the articulation, right? You have a good ball joint at the head, a very good one. You have a universal at the shoulder. You have a solid enough single jointed elbow. Have a universal at the wrist. You have a rotation at the waist. No diaphragm on Robin, unlike on Batman. The DC Universe Classics hips. A kind of weak knee, admittedly. Not great. But then you do have a boot cut. And you have an ankle rocker and up and down the ankle. His proportions are also just incredible. Really does capture the design and the essence of this version of Robin, which is great. I just wish it didn't look like he was covered in, like, the grease from a McDonald's bag he fell into. At the very least, he does have some good accessories. For instance, I forget what you would call this, but he has, like, a cord that you would use to trip up someone while they were running. It's made of a very flexible material, so it does actually look pretty solid if you get it worked into his hands. Alongside that, he has his own version of a bat grapple hand. Looks very, very good. 2 closed fists, and 2 more kind of open gestural hands. So you do have good hand options and good accessories in general. So again, this isn't a case of this is a bad figure, it's more a case of this is a figure with some issues. Here's the bigger issue. Dick Grayson was never this short in the show. By the time of even the first season of Batman the Animated Series, Dick Grayson was eye level with Batman, if maybe just a few inches shorter. He's right now more the height of, say, Tim Drake, and that's just not right for this Robin. He's way too short here. So I suppose you can make an argument that this is more accurate to comics, and I'm sure that you could probably find an episode where there was this height discrepancy, but I can tell you right now, this is not the height discrepancy you would find in most episodes with Dick Grayson. Even with that, I really like these three together. As a teaser for the next episode, here's Condiment King. I'm currently having to keep him in warm water, because his arms won't go in. Now, this is easily the most unique figure out of this batch, so Scarecrow has a lot of potential to either be the best or the worst. Let's see just how old Ichabod Crane did. A thing I need to point out is this Scarecrow is a Platinum Edition figure? I don't know if there is a normal Scarecrow. Every Scarecrow that's shown up in my store were all Platinum Edition. So I don't know if this one has like a deco change, or what I honestly think might be the case is he was probably short packed, and because there's only one of him per box, they were like, he's the Platinum Edition, he's the Chase. I don't know, man. Just someone inform me if there is a quote-unquote normal Scarecrow, because I've not seen it. So I can imagine this being a somewhat divisive pick for the first wave, and hear me out. It's not because it's Scarecrow. I love Scarecrow. He's one of my favorite Batman villains. It's because in the history of Batman the Animated Series, Scarecrow had the most redesigns. Like, I think he had at least one major redesign per season, some more major than others, but Scarecrow was the one character they seemingly just never found a look they liked for any extended period of time. And personally, even though this is Batman the Animated Series, I would have preferred the New Adventures Scarecrow, the one that just looked like the, decaying preacher with a noose around his neck. I know that's not a traditional Scarecrow look, but it was also the best Scarecrow look, so, I'm just saying. Even so, you have a lot to like here. You, of course, have the hat, and really well sculpted hair, and then I like the one tooth sticking out. Have a ball joint in the head. You have all the stitching of his tunic and pants. You have a universal here at the shoulder, a very deep single elbow, my word. You have a universal at the wrist, only a rotation at the waist. For some reason I thought there'd be an ab crunch in here in the box, but nah, this is all just sculpted. Very well sculpted too. The hips are a bit weird because they're universal, but they get impaired, so it's almost more like a V. I don't know. You have a double jointed knee, very deep, and you have the rotation, or the, no rocker at the ankle, my apologies, but you do have up and down. So he has different points of articulation. He has less than, say, Batman or Robin, but at the same time, some of the things that I think matter way more than, say, ankle rockers are like good range in the elbows, which he has better than Robin or Alfred. He has a better range in his head. And even though he has less accessories, I'd argue he has better accessories. For instance, he has a massive, massive scythe that actually has really good cell shading on it, while on one side, no paint on the back. That's unfortunate. That's really unfortunate, especially because you think about it, he'd probably be holding it more like this than like that. Well, capitalism, baby. He does have an unmasked head without a grease stain on it. That's cool. And also, I do like the unmasked head. Looks just like his design in the show. And then you have a kind of more open gestural hand and a punching hand. So, sure, less hand options, but a big weapon and an unmasked head. I prefer that to, say, I don't know, whatever the hell this thing is. A couple of really big complaints, though. He doesn't have a hand that's really good at holding the scythe. They're all too gestural. It'd have been nice to actually get him to get a good grip on this thing. Watch. It just slides around in there. Also, that head rests really high up on the neck. Jesus. I set this up as a joke, and I'm just now realizing Alfred is better at holding the scythe than Scarecrow is. Even still, Robin and Scarecrow, in some ways I'm more impressed. Specifically, I'm more impressed with Scarecrow, but Scarecrow I think is a less functional figure in a lot of ways. Right now, if I had to pick my favorite, it'd either be the Batman or the Alfred, and the Alfred is getting along basically almost entirely because of that super judgy head sculpt. These figures are fine. It's definitely not worth $30. If they were 20, they'd be pushing it. 30 is ridiculous for these figures. But I'm still liking them. They are still good figures. I am enjoying them. They're just too much for what they are. Especially that Robin and Scarecrow.